Hello, Pisces. Well, what a reading we have for you today. Okay, so, my name is Lynn Walden. Welcome to my channel. I'm a clairvoyant medium, and I'm doing a reading for you today using my Intuitive Insight Oracle cards. I'm going to tell you the names of the cards after I do the reading, if I remember. Because it's because I think it'll be better that way. Okay, so as I was getting ready to do the reading and I was talking with my guides, these are the images they presented me with. I saw you in a church. You were about the third or fourth pew back, and you were looking at the altar, and you were tearing it up. You were just like and I don't know the words you were saying, but it was clear to me that God and or Jesus, whoever was represented in that church, and it was a church, but it doesn't have to be a church. It can be any religious house. Thank you, my friend Terry, for reminding me of that distinction. That you're ticked off, you're upset, you're angry, and you're giving it, right? In a way where you very clearly are rejecting this and no bones about it. And I said, okay, that's great. Where do we start with that? Like, where do we go from there? And all of a sudden, the roof cracked open, the light poured in, and it was literally like God was yelling down, "You thought that was me?" And the place is flooded, and you're standing there going, oh, no, two different things completely. So as I looked at that, I'm going, oh, that's really interesting. The cards that I get are very much almost a contradiction of each other, but they're not really when you look at it in conjunction with that image. You've got betrayal, you've got abandonment, you've got isolation, you've got pain, you've got resistance. Then you've got play, kindness, grace. Stop and allow for good feelings. Look out for cognitive distortions that are limiting you. And I really like. So it's like, whoa, that's very interesting. Those first batch of cards really represent to me that first image, where perhaps there was a sense of abandonment. Now, I'm talking, because it came in the image of a church, I'm thinking, yes, very possibly the sense of having been let down by God and having assumed that if the church let you down, or somebody in the church let you down, or people who represented the church, which psychologically can also be your family, your original family. But if there was that sense of being isolated, left alone, abandoned, what does abandoned mean? It's a deeper sense of desertion, of being left vulnerable without the support or tools that we need in order to survive. But isolation isn't just that. Isolation really is more about being disconnected from ourselves. So if we're looking at this in relation to that image of the church, where you're basically given hell to the altar, what it says to me is that there was at some point some real sense of having been let down, having been betrayed, having been abandoned, and that created a lot of pain in your life. And again, it doesn't have to be a church. I'm seeing it as that, but remember, this is for a collective. This could be a person that you put on an altar that you totally adored and admired, and then they turned on you or left you, or it could be that as well. So, but that's the feeling that I get, is that powerful, that something that was meant in your mind to be so big and so supportive and powerful and wasn't. Okay? either betrayed the trust or just betrayed it by leaving. Okay? But what I'm wondering is, what kind of pain has it left you with? Where is it creating resistance in your life that is holding you back from your magnificent, creative, flowy, intuitive, psychic, mediumistic self? Pisces, you've got the capacity really to do it all. I know I've waxed poetic about you before. And I've known a lot of Pisces in my life. And what I can say about them all is that they have the ability to be creative in many different ways, as well as being very intellectual and very capable of thinking clearly, logistically. And they can also kind of get stuck sometimes in playing an old story, like we all can, right? We all can do that. Playing an old story that prevents them from really blossoming into not necessarily the being creative, but the enjoying of being creative, of watching and appreciating themselves blossoming and blooming in this, and not having to carry the pain story with them. You're being asked, in order to move out of that and get rid of whatever resistance might still be there, you're being asked to be playful. You're being asked to be lighthearted. You're being asked to lean into kindness, which is a soft thing and a gentle thing. And you're being asked to remember that grace is there for you and that you can lean into that, because that grace is the cracking of the ceiling of that house of worship into a greater reality of what is available to you, what has always been available to you, and what has never, ever betrayed you. That is your true self, your deeper self, your spirit. Divine presence, which is in you, right? So in order to help yourself move out of any attachment to old pain, and it could be real physical pain too, because I think at this stage of life, any of us who are past 60 have probably experienced some relative physical pain that has not necessarily been fun, and can create a real sense of being shut off and kind of out of the flow of life. But we don't have to be. We can move through, we can work with. For now, wherever you're coming from, what I would say is the idea of play and kindness and grace is to look wherever you are talking about cognitive distortions, where cognitive distortions are limiting you. So I've used this example before. What's a cognitive distortion? A statement that is not accurate. In this case, we're looking for statements that are not accurate, that are limiting. For example, oh, I can't paint. Well, yes, actually, I can paint. Will it be as good as my exes or my friends or 80% of the people in this very artistic town? No. But I can paint. What makes me feel better? I can't paint. I can't do that. Wall of energy comes down. Well, yeah, actually, I could. Now that feels playful. It doesn't have to be good for me to be able to do it. Another one that I've used before, I think that was a new one. The one that I've used before often is saying, oh, I don't have anything to wear. All of a sudden, everything feels dry and it's like, wait a minute. I don't really want to wear anything that I've got in my closet. Ooh, all of a sudden now, my mind goes to, hey, let's go to Frenchie's, the secondhand store. They always have great stuff there, especially the one in Wilmot. Now I've got a shopping trip planned with my sister, And now that's a fun thing to do. So now my energy has changed. It's not I've got nothing to wear. It's like, oh, I'm going on a shopping trip and I'm going to have some fun and probably spend $10. Whoop. Okay? So you get the idea. Look for the cognitive distortions, and the cognitive distortions might be around how you say things like, oh yeah, my dad always used to. It's like, well, no, maybe he was a real jerk once. Or maybe he was only nice once. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that about my dad either. An example. It's just an example. Okay. I think I'm going to end there because my nose hurts and I need to go. And I think that's really all I need to say to you. Look out for where you're holding yourself back. Look out for the cognitive distortions and how you speak. And stop and notice when you find yourself avoiding good memories or good thoughts and moving to the negative one and choosing the negative ones. Pay attention to that. That goes along with the cognitive distortions, okay? And instead of complaining or thinking about people, especially if it's from the past, if you're looking at people and you're thinking, well, they were, you can also stop and say, yeah, he used to be really cranky sometimes. Or my dad was always aloof and cranky. Well, no, he wasn't. A lot of times he was in pain, and a lot of times he was funny as hell and could crack us up and made the effort to take us out on the lake sometimes when he didn't feel like it. So he wasn't always this. Nobody is ever always this. So where you find yourself doing that, especially if it's in referencing to some of these old emotions that I talked about, see if you can break some of that energy by looking for the cognitive distortions. Instead, look at things that you liked about them. Look at some of the positives that it or they offered you. Okay? I'm referring to my father because that's the first one that comes up for me in terms of being able to pinpoint specific things. But it can be about anything. It can be about another relationship or job or anything that relates to those emotions. So that's it, my Pisces. I just about did something very silly, and I'm not going to. I'll save it for next time, or I won't. Okay, now it's really time for me to go because I'm doing this rambling thing. Take care, Pisces, and I will be back next week. If you feel like giving me a thumbs up, making a comment, I'm always happy to read them. And if you haven't subscribed and you would like to, that would be delightful as well. Thank you very much, and I'll be back. Have a great week.